On the morning of October 25, 1944, near the San Bernardino Strait in the Philippines, Lieutenant Commander Robert Witcher Copeland is enjoying his morning coffee on the bridge of the USS Samuel B. Roberts after a restless night spent patrolling the waters. His vessel is part of Taffy 3, a carrier group consisting of 6 escort carriers, 3 Fletcher-class destroyers, and 5 Butler-class escort destroyers, including his own. Their objective is to provide air support for the landings at Leyte Gulf, relegating the destroyers to a protective and patrol role, which appears to be a straightforward assignment. However, this changes abruptly when he receives a radio transmission, alerting him to surface radar contacts approaching their position. Before he can respond, one of his lookouts announces, "Object on the horizon, sir." Without hesitation, Copeland commands all hands to battle stations. The situation is about to escalate. In the distance, the center force of the Imperial Japanese Navy advances into combat, comprising 11 destroyers, 2 light cruisers, 6 heavy cruisers, and 3 battleships, with the formidable Yamato, the largest warship ever constructed, at its center. The commander of Taffy 3 promptly orders the carrier group to maneuver eastward and deploy smoke. Aircraft are launched from the carriers to engage the enemy, unleashing a barrage of bombs, torpedoes, depth charges, and strafing runs. However, the Japanese force proves overwhelming, and the planes soon exhaust their ammunition, necessitating a withdrawal to rearm and refuel. Copeland issues the order, and the crew activates the chemical smoke generators, while overloading the boilers, with fuel resulting in thick black smoke billowing from the smokestack. As this unfolds, Copeland observes large, colorful splashes erupting from the sea, indicating that the Japanese have begun firing their initial ranging shots. The remaining destroyers emulate the USS Roberts, swiftly generating an extensive barrier of black and white smoke in front of the aircraft carriers as they proceed eastward, directly towards a solitary storm. The splashes from enemy fire draw nearer as the Japanese gunners hone in on their target, poised to strike at any moment. Fortunately for the Americans, they encounter a rain squall that significantly reduces visibility. The deluge and the smokescreen effectively conceal the vulnerable vessels from the Japanese forces. Despite the ongoing bombardment, the limited visibility renders the attacks imprecise and slows their pace, granting the fleet invaluable time to regroup and strategize. Copeland continues to oversee the deployment of smoke when he receives a communication from the commander instructing all destroyers to launch a torpedo assault. He promptly inquires whether the Butler-class and Fletcher-class destroyers should engage simultaneously. The reply is negative. The Fletcher-class vessels are to initiate the attack first. The Fletcher-class ships advance into the fray, leaving Copeland to wait, listening to the distant rumble of artillery through the haze. The anticipation is agonizing, and he reflects, "My God, how are we going to manage this?" Considering the imminent dangers, he addresses the crew over the loudspeaker, stating, "We are about to face overwhelming odds, and survival is not guaranteed. We will inflict as much damage as we can." The Fletcher-class destroyers complete their assault and retreat into the relative safety of the smoke, enduring multiple hits from the enemy fleet. Amid the turmoil, the second wave of attacks lacks coordination, causing the Butler-class destroyers to hesitate. However, Copeland does not delay. He pushes the engine order telegraph to full power and propels the ship into battle, charging directly at the enemy at a speed of 20 knots. He recognizes the heavy cruiser, Chikai, as the primary target in close proximity. Positioned almost perfectly for a torpedo strike, and commands his crew to proceed directly towards it. Enemy shells begin to rain down around them, yet they advance with unwavering determination. Amidst the chaos, he communicates with Lieutenant Trowbridge, the engineering officer, stating, "Lucky. Once we launch our torpedoes, I will signal for flank speed, and you must give me everything you have." The bombardment escalates, with geysers of seawater erupting around them, some splashing just yards away. A shell strikes the ship's mast, sending debris cascading onto the deck, and a metal beam jams the torpedo launcher. Copeland is alerted to the situation, but fortunately, the launcher is already directed overboard. Committed to the attack, he assesses a new approach to accommodate the launcher's angle and continues onward. Shells persist in battering the waters around him, yet they narrowly miss due to sheer fortune. Approaching Chikai at a distance of 4,000 yards, Copeland commands, "Fire," and the 3 torpedoes plunge into the ocean. The torpedoes are launched. The ship swiftly alters course to evade danger, and Copeland pushes the engine order telegraph to flank speed. Below deck, Trowbridge overrides all safety protocols, causing the boiler pressure to surge beyond its design limits, propelling the ship to an astonishing 28 knots. "She cannot endure much longer, Captain," he warns. Behind them, the HIJMS Chikai is shaken by an explosion as one of the torpedoes finds its target. However, there is no time for celebration, as enemy vessels continue their relentless barrage. They maintain their frantic pace, weaving through a tempest of high explosives. Amidst the turmoil, Copeland spots an Allied destroyer, severely damaged and struggling to stay afloat. The captain stands on the stern, bloodied and injured, yet still directing the ship by shouting commands down to the engine room. As they pass by in the heat of battle, the captain offers Copeland a friendly wave. Copeland arrives at a scene of utter devastation, with the majority of the fleet sustaining significant damage, yet they continue to engage in battle. He communicates with his gunners, instructing them to target the nearest adversary, the cruiser Chikuma. The 5-inch artillery opens fire on the cruiser, although their firepower pales in comparison to that of the Japanese forces. The gunners are resolute in their efforts to make every shot count. They unleash a relentless barrage into the vulnerable superstructure of the Chikuma, while skillfully evading incoming 8-inch artillery fire. Within turret number 2, gunner's mate, 3rd class, Paul Henry Carr, utilizes every type of ammunition available, from the hoist, including armor-piercing, high-explosive, AA proximity fuse, as well as smoke and star shells intended for illuminating the battlefield at night. A similar scenario unfolds in turret number 1, where the small destroyer relentlessly targets the Chikuma's superstructure. Their precise shots disable one of the 8-inch turrets, and the star shells ignite fires across the deck. The engagement continues for 45 minutes, during which the gunners exhaust nearly all of the 5-inch ammunition on board. Suddenly, a lookout on the bridge calls out, "Captain, 14-inch splashes behind us." Copeland turns just in time to witness massive geysers of water erupting mere inches from the stern. He rushes to the engine order, telegraph EOT, and shifts it to full reverse, causing the ship's hull to shudder as it comes to a sudden stop. They begin to reverse when Copeland hears a deafening whoosh of shells passing overhead, followed by their impact in the waters ahead. Having narrowly avoided the incoming fire, he pushes the EOT back to full speed ahead, but it is too late. An 8-inch salvo strikes the warship, with one shell penetrating the engine room and rupturing the steam pipes of one boiler, another hitting below the waterline, and a third disabling all power and communications. The ship is severely damaged, and the Japanese forces are acutely aware of it. The 14-inch main guns of the battleship HIJ-MS Congo take aim and fire, unleashing 1,400-pound shells that crash into the vessel, creating a massive breach below the waterline. The order to evacuate the vessel was given. The destroyer continued to sink while her gunners defiantly maintained their fire. An explosion reverberated within turret number 2, causing the barrel and breech to reach such extreme temperatures that it triggered a premature detonation of the shell's powder charge. A crew member entered the turret and discovered Carr slumped against the wall, gravely injured, with a shell in his grasp. The crew member attempted to assist, but Carr only pleaded for help in loading one more shell into the breech, unaware that the gun was no longer operational. Meanwhile, on the bridge, Copeland found himself devoid of control, power, or communication, leaving him powerless to act. He left the bridge alongside First Officer Lloyd Gurnett as shells continued to rain down on the beleaguered ship. The two made their way to the bow of the vessel, which was rising ominously, and spotted a life raft below. They leaped into the water. The burning USS Samuel B. Roberts remained afloat for an additional hour before finally capsizing and sinking beneath the waves, taking with it 90 of the 210-man crew. The Japanese assault was ultimately repelled by the unprepared carrier fleet, thwarting their efforts to intervene in the Leyte invasion and resulting in the sinking of 3 heavy cruisers, including Chakai and Chikuma. However, the Allied fleet suffered significant losses, with 2 carriers and 3 destroyers sunk, while the remainder sustained severe damage. The ensuing chaos delayed rescue operations, with men remaining in the sea for up to 24 hours. After the battle concluded, some adrift for as long as 50 hours. Engineering Officer Lieutenant Herbert W. Trowbridge and gunner's mate 3rd Class Paul Carr perished in the encounter. Both were posthumously awarded the Silver Star for their courageous final actions, and a guided missile frigate would later be named in Carr's honor. Lieutenant Commander Robert Witcher Copeland, along with his crew, was saved from the water and subsequently received the Navy Cross for his courageous actions. In recognition of his service, a frigate was named after him. After the war, he returned to his legal profession in his hometown. He died in Tacoma, Washington, on August 25, 1973,